All right, a crowdfunding for real estate using the Groundfloor platform review and update for the early fall of 2022. Hi, I'm John McNeil, and this is the Invest Strong Network. Welcome. So all Invest Strong viewers know, since the fall of 2018, I have been an investor in this crowdfunding for real estate platform, Groundfloor. Now, I really have enjoyed Groundfloor. I have found their platform to be a breeze to use, easy to understand, and their projects have been ones that I felt comfortable investing in. Now, the last, shall we say, 4 years or so have brought some very interesting returns, and especially recently that I wanted to make my viewers aware of. Now, all right, so let's get right into it. So I started off way back in the early fall of 2018 with the amount of $15,000 of Brother John's money invested in the Groundfloor crowdfunding for real estate platform. And what Groundfloor does is it takes investments from the crowd, right, in increments as small as $10 and as large as $10,000, put them together into various real estate development projects, flipping projects, let's call them, mostly for residential real estate. Once the projects come to fruition, they sell them, take whatever profit there is, divide it up, send it to the investors in the proportion that they invested in. You keep your money and get your money back, rather, along with some interest that you earned during the process of the development. Okay, so how has that all turned out? Well, like I mentioned, we'll be dealing with the figure of $15,000, and that's Brother John's money. I've not added any other funds to that total since 2018. So as of late September of 2022, I have invested in a total of $47,480 worth of projects. So that is the original 15 that was invested in various projects. Those projects would sell off. I would take the proceeds from that and then reinvest them. And after doing this for essentially 4 years, I've done this to the tune of about $47,480. Now, of that amount, the amount of $3,152.58 have been interest on those various investments that have come back to Brother John. So that would make up what we would call the return on investment, right? Now, that amount of $3,152 would come out to be 8.2% year over year annual return on the Groundfloor projects. Okay, that's great. I really don't have a problem with that, right? And the overwhelming majority of these projects have been in projects that are in the B level or C level strata. Now, for those who are not familiar with the Groundfloor credit platform, they will grade their projects from A, which is top quality credit grade, to as low as E, which I've seen, which would be, shall we say, the most speculative of their projects. Now, I would stick to the kind of middling level range, right? Most of my projects, in fact, almost all of them, have been B or C level. And I have noticed just recently that Groundfloor has been cranking out more D level and E level projects that have considerably higher interest rates attached to them. Now, I'm not sure why Groundfloor is doing this. I would suppose it is because with inflation and interest rates increasing, you'll have investors that want to see a higher level of return. And really the only way you can get a higher level of return is to offer more speculative projects with a higher interest rate attached to them. So I'm going to assume that's why Groundfloor is doing that. For me personally, that's too rich for my blood, right? I really would prefer to stick in the B and C level loans. The A level loans, the interest rates are just not high enough for the risk taking. And the D and E and perhaps even F level, they may offer those one, at some time in the future. The risk is just way, way too much, because with an 8.2 or so year over year annual return rate, all it takes is one or two defaults on one of these D or E or F level projects, and that'll wipe out a considerable portion of your total return for the year. And I don't want that, right? So I will stick to the B level and C level interest notes. All right. Now, currently, of the grand total of $18,130 that I currently have working for me in various Groundfloor projects and notes. And that's another interesting point, because Groundfloor originated purely as a crowdfunding for project sites. Later on, they began to offer these securitized notes, which are obviously much safer, but they have a much lower interest rate. When during the pandemic and even in the post-pandemic period, I had begun to dabble in the notes, right? Because things just kind of get a little scary there. So of the $18,130 that's currently active, the amount of $3,800 of that are in the notes, and $14,330 are in actual Groundfloor flipping projects. Now, Groundfloor is saying that they expect a return from the notes of 6.5%, and they expect a return on the projects of 10.5%. However, historically, the return on the notes have been closer to 5%, and the return on the projects have been 8.2%. Now, the reason the notes are lower than the expected amount was because most of the notes that I had been investing in have been short-term notes with the lower interest rates. Recently, I had begun to invest in longer-term notes that had a higher interest rate. And so this 5% number of actual return is kind of an amalgam of the short term and the long term. But that rate will begin to go up as I have begun invested in longer term notes with higher rates of interest. All right. So overall, the annual year over year total return for the Groundfloor projects that I've been investing in has been about 8%. And that's really great. Like I mentioned before, from 8% to 8.3, currently holding at about 8.2, right? So that's fine. But I'm watching these projects very, very closely because I've been hearing about this real estate apocalypse, and also obviously the Federal Reserve has been raising rates. Mortgage rates are going up. The housing market, however, has maintained its strength, right? And I look at all these repayments, and virtually all of the repayments have either been on time or a little bit ahead of time, and they've all paid the amount of interest that had been expected. So far, things, so far so good. We'll just put it that way. Now, my numbers will begin to really look better going forward because last year, Groundfloor really purged their portfolio of underperforming and defaulted notes, right? And I received some payout from some of those. Took a little haircut on a few of them, but they basically purged their system of those notes that had been kind of matriculating in their system over the previous 3 years. And so going forward, my year-over-year ROI will begin to rise. And I love the feel of that. All right, so that's my review for Groundfloor for the early fall of 2022. If you found this information instructive, informative, hit the thumbs up button for me. Please do it. I love you for doing that. Also, leave me a comment if you are interested in doing crowdfunding for real estate, Groundfloor, or maybe one of the other platforms. If you've had experiences with them, let me know. I'll love to hear, and I'll respond to everyone. I promise you. And of course, subscribe! Subscribe to Invest Strong. Whether the real estate market is strong or going into the pits, we'll do it together. Subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much, friends, and good blessings.